Today we're going to conclude our series of living generously. I'm going to let you all know now this is the first sermon that I've written that Pastor Ray hasn't read and given his blessing on. So here we go. Our series was The Heart of Giving, Redeeming the Clock, Sharing Your Gifts, More Than Resources, and today, Leaving a Legacy That Lasts. Leaving a legacy that lasts. What does this mean to you? Does it mean it's like Michael Jordan, a guy that played his last NBA game on April 16, 2003, and yet to this day he still has gym shoes named after him? Or how about Andrew Carnegie, the Scottish-American industrialist who funded the construction of Carnegie Hall, a world-renowned concert venue in New York City, known for its classical musical performances. And yet I stand here in Grant County, Kentucky, telling you that I've heard of it. Is money and success the measure of one's legacy? If I compare myself to individuals like these, my legacy will not last. It will not stand a chance. A generous life leaves a legacy of faith, hope, and love for future generations. I'd like to talk about a man today, tell a story. By human standards, we'd say that he's made it and he hit it big. He built a business that turned out to be a success and very profitable. This business provided for his family and the community, and then what I call Hollywood made a television show about him and his family, and they're now a common household name. This guy was a thorn in the side of Hollywood. He didn't conform to the producer's way of acting, thinking, or speaking. This man had a story. He told his story, never changed his story, and told it over and over and over again. I'm talking about Phil Robertson, the late Duck Commander of Duck Dynasty. I can't explain why, but I've become drawn towards this man, especially since his death. He openly talked about sins as a young man. He characterized his own life as a heavy drinker, a drug user, and an unfaithful husband. He finally hit rock bottom and decided to seek change. However, he did not know he was seeking change. He gives credit to this to his youngest sister, Janice Ellen. It is said that Janice told a preacher, a proclaimer, and a quote from Phil, a good one, that if you can convert my brother, he can convert thousands. Janice had faith in God, hope in a preacher Smith, and love for her brother. Phil had to find faith, and when he was converted, he then embraced Christianity. Phil said that he transformed his life, leading him to a more fulfilling and meaningful path. He grew in his faith. He became a devout Christian, became a member of a church. Then he became an elder at his church. He was a very outspoken advocate for his Christian beliefs. Hollywood allowed him to be just a tiny portion of his true self when they agreed that he could say a short prayer as the episode ended, gathered around family and the table. I guess you can take your wins when you can get them in the television game. Amen? I watched a podcast for the first time in my life. The title is Unashamed with the Robertson Family. Phil could be heard in the opening credits saying, "I'm not ashamed of the gospel. What about you?" He challenges you right out of the gate. On this episode, employees and family were remembering things about Phil Robertson as he continued to do for 50 years after becoming a Christian. Phil took every opportunity he had to speak to people about God. Reflecting, they said, if Phil was in a duck blind, if he was hunting, he would speak about God. His brother Si shared a story early in their career when they go hunting and fishing expos. They'd set up a table to sell these duck calls. Si said that Phil would talk to people, strangers, even potential customers about Jesus Christ. He would look forward to that opportunity in every conversation to spread the good news. A common theme that Phil Robertson would talk about was death. He emphasized his belief in the afterlife with God. His message was simple. It was told the same way over and over. He would say death was not the end, but a transition to eternity with God. I'll say that again. Death is not the end, but a transition to eternity with God. He had also expressed the desire for loved ones not to mourn his death, but to celebrate the new life in heaven. He emphasized the hope in the resurrection, shared the gospel, eternity with God, and looked forward to the transition to eternity celebrating life. A new life, a new beginning. 3 keys to a legacy that lasts are faithfulness over time, intentional impact, and generational blessing. It was told by family and friends that Phil converted into a man of faith and carried out this quest, spreading the news of God for over 50 years. Faithfulness over time. He made it a point in whatever activity he was a part of to include God in a conversation. It's an intentional impact. His generational blessing, Duck Dynasty, first aired on March 21st, 2012, and ran through March 29th of 2017. You can still flip through the channels and catch an old episode. I just think of how many lives are changed, and the person that he mentored can now change someone else's life. Janice said, if you convert him, he will convert thousands. I wish I knew that exact number, but I truly believe as soon as I heard the number, you'd have a saying like McDonald's, converted billions and still serving. It's that kind of legacy that living a generous life can have. Kings chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. When the time drew near for David to die, he gave a charge to Solomon his son. I'm about to go away of all the earth, he said. So be strong and act like a man, and observe what the Lord your God requires. Walk in obedience to him, and keep his decrees and commands, his laws and regulations, as written in the law of Moses. Do this so that you may prosper in all that you do, wherever you go, and that the Lord may keep his promise to me. If your descendants watch how they live, and if they walk faithfully before me with all their heart and their soul, you will never fail to have a successor on the throne of Israel. David is passing his legacy to his son Solomon. God promises that if David's descendants watched how they lived and watched how they walked faithfully before God with their hearts and their souls, they would always have control of the throne of Israel. So that means Solomon will have to pass this down to his children and his children's children. Can you see those three key themes that I spoke about? Faithfulness over time, intentional impact, and a generational blessing? I'd like for you all to just sit there and listen to these names that I'm about to read. John Laney Ackman, John Jewett family, Howard Aggie, Leah Mae Blaine, Mabel Bray, Stanley Caldwell, Roy Childers, Anna Cobb, Keith Cornelius, Albert R. Vance, John Elliott, A.W. Glasgow, Celeste Glasgow, Dawson Hogan, Maggie Howard, Marty Redden, Herbert Van Scherver, Tom Webb, Thomas Dean Webb, Mr. and Mrs. John Lane Jr., David Ack, Otis Kells, O.L. Metz, Cora and Edwin Gibson, Joe and Dawson Hogan, Marion Samuel C. Blaine and son, Mr. and Mrs. Calvert Hewlett, Lucille Clark Dunlop, Doris Vest Clark, Reverend Marion K. Johnson, Helen and Harry Van Hughes, Haiti M. Blaine, W.W. and Martha Blaine, Gladys and Albert R. Vance, Sarah Jordan Hicks, William J. Hicks, Mr. and Mrs. Murphy Hudson, B.C. Weinsberger family, Pauline and Roger Lanner, Ruth G. and L. M. Ackman, John W. Chipman, Mr. and Mrs. Everett Chipman, Stephen Red Webb, Jane B. Lehman, Russell and Trudy Everett, and Dr. Lenore P. Chipman, Dr. Charles M. and Eloise Eckler, Mary E. Glass, Edna J. Taylor, O.B. Taylor, George Powers family, Roy E. and Annette Osborne, Mr. and Mrs. Henry Jewett and family, Pauline and Adam Jewett, Mr. and Mrs. John Brown, Mary June and D.R. Wood, Dean Red Webb and W.F. Webb, Holly Jewett, Laura Dickerson, Mr. and Mrs. Ray Gardner, Sally Oder, Mary Webb, Clay Conrad, Cornelia C. Bennett, J.W. Bennett, Celeste and Arnie and William Glass, T.M. Gibson, Rebecca Gibson, Gertrude Blackburn, Mrs. G.V. Thuribolt, Miss Anna Wigington, Neely and George Ammerman, Mildred G. Colcord, Mrs. O.L. Mitz, who was a Sunday school teacher for 25 years. Folks, these are names in our church that gave faithful, impactful, and blessings for future generations. Those names came from the gold placards on the windows that bring light into our sanctuary, and at the end of the pews that we sit in each and every week. In conclusion today, I ask you to consider how your life is going to influence others. As we reflect, can we say, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Plan how to leave spiritual, relational, and missionary legacy. Now there is in store for me a crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day. And not only to me, but to all who have longed for his appearing. Phil Robertson started a business that may prosper for years, and some may remember him for that. But for his legacy that lasts, he was born again, fought the good fight, finished the race, and kept the faith. Amen.